Hi, my name is Ariel Levin-Waldman, and I work here at Sheba in the International Dovroute, the International Spokesman's Unit. I found myself in the headlines for a very different reason than I ever expected to. As of 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, my house was hit by a missile. Now, myself, my wife, and my 2 children were downstairs in the shelter in the basement. It didn't matter that much, though, because the blast wave came right through the door, shattered most of the shelter, and blew a cabinet across the room. We all survived, and we all survived intact. My father-in-law also survived despite not having been in the shelter at the time. It was a very chaotic few moments, though, at the beginning. There was a flash of lights, and then everything went dark, and we couldn't breathe. I could hear screaming. My 2 children, one was 2 months old, and the other almost 3 years old. They were screaming, my wife was screaming, my mother-in-law was screaming, and I'll be honest, so was I. You don't get hit by a missile every single day. Once I had composed myself enough to think straight and get a hold of my surroundings, I reached in my pocket and grabbed my phone and put the light on. The air was so thick with dust, even with the light on, it was pure white. We couldn't see anything. I had to step forward until I could make out the very faint outlines of my mother-in-law pinned to the wall of the shelter by the bookcase, by the cabinet. I took my 2-month-old baby, threw over one shoulder, and grabbed the cabinet, pulled it off my mother-in-law, and made way for my wife and my 2-year-old to get out of the destroyed shelter. We stepped over broken glass. We were barefoot at the time, not a fun experience, to say the least. And at that point, we heard the shouting of people above from the paramedics and the emergency crews. And that's when we knew we had been saved. Now, at this point, you might have seen some of the famous photos to have gone around. A policewoman running down the street holding my small newborn daughter. That was the one that went viral, and the reason that I'm speaking out to share the full story of how the events unfolded that day. The immediate aftermath was, of course, handled by the emergency services on the spot. And I was rushed to the emergency room here for a checkup. Once I had made sure that my wife and kids had been checked and they were all okay, only then did I allow the doctors here to do their job and check me properly. Doctors weren't too happy about that, but they understood the need. But from there is when the hospital really kicked in. It wasn't just a matter of making sure that we were alive and intact, which was a complete miracle that we were. But it was making sure that we had a what next afterwards. All of my documents, my papers, my IDs, my money, my wallet, completely destroyed. I had nothing but, can't even see the clothes on my back because it was just my underwear. My wife was not much better and the kids were in the same position. Sheba got together, they got a whole team together, and within hours, I think I had more clothes at the end of the day than I started with. From there, it was toys for the children. It was a plan of where to go next. They had found a hotel for us when we had found a place to stay and start piecing back together the literal rubble of our lives. I got to say, not just because I'm working here, but because it was a truly moving experience to see in action the amount of forces that the Sheba team was able to mobilize to help one of their own. But it's not a unique experience either, because it's not just the forces they can rally to help one of their own. This is more or less standard operating procedure for people that are involved in a mass casualty event, in a mass accident, for hostages coming back. These are people who have had their lives ripped out from under them instantly and totally the same way that I had. And they had to have their help to put it back together. Sheba did that. It's a process that's still ongoing, but physically, I'm intact. Physically, my family is intact. Mentally, going forward, I'm still going to be making use of many of the services provided here because you don't take a missile to the head and not come out with at least a little bit of traumas from that. But Sheba's offering those services too. But between everything, they're helping get a whole life back together. That's not an easy task to take the work of 34 years and try to compress it into a few days. But it's something they're doing, and it's something they do for many people in my situation. It's just a small sign of the sort of brotherhood, the sort of family that Sheba has and that Israeli society as a whole has. It's what it means to be resilient, because one man can't be resilient. A nation can be, and Sheba is reflecting that nation. It's why resilience and returning to life is one of our mottos here, because in my case, I got to experience firsthand the necessity of it.